Alright, so how do we acquire property? Well, we don't steal it, but you can exchange things. I'll give you this Leonardo for your 1978 Luke Skywalker action figure. You know, when he's in the Tatooine outfit with the blue lightsaber that goes into his arm. Y'all know which one this is? I actually have it somewhere. It's hidden at my dad's house somewhere. I got it. I don't think the lightsaber's there anymore, but I do have it. What did we just do? We made a contract. Contract, one of my favorite things. Offer, acceptance, consideration, capacity, legal purpose. Alright? I just offered to trade you my Leonardo for a 1978 Luke Skywalker action figure in his Tatooine outfit. You said, okay. Acceptance. Consideration. Both of us give up something. I give up Leonardo, you give up Luke Skywalker. Capacity. Are we drunk? No. I promise I'm not drunk. I just had coffee this morning. Are you over 18? I would say probably most of you are. And is it legal? Absolutely. Alright? These are not illegal drugs. Alright? So we can exchange goods through contract. Acquiring resources through possession. The rule of first possession is that the first person to reduce previously unowned things to possession becomes the owner. Okay? What about lost property? You know, you find this on the ground. Ooh, it's lost. I found it. Okay, now certainly there's statutory things you got to do. You know, you may have to take it to the police station, turn it into lost and found, wait 30 days, see if anybody claims it, then it's yours. But if it's lost property and you find it, it's yours. Adverse possession. You know, ocean. Open, continuous, exclusive. OCE. Adverse. And notorious for a statutory period, usually 20-25 years. You can take property through adverse possession, but you do have to go through a quiet title action. Now, speaking of property, what type of ownership can you have in property? Well, there's fee simple absolute, and this is the highest level of property you can have, meaning it's yours, you own it completely, absolutely. All right, you have a life estate. No. To Mike for the duration of his life. No, it's a life estate. So as long as you're alive, it's yours. You have leasehold, you know, rights of a tenant. Some of you may rent property. That's called a leasehold estate. You know, you may have a leasehold for a year. Alright, and then it'll go to a month to month after that. Who knows? Concurrent, you can have ownership of property concurrent with other people. You can have joint altogether, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. You know, meaning when you pass, it automatically goes to the other person. Doesn't even have to go through probate. You can have it in common, your tenancy in common. You can have, you know, property owned by you and your spouse, and then when you pass, it goes to your heirs. But you know, joint tenancy means that it would not go to your heirs, it would go to the other joint tenant. Tenancy in common would be an undivided 1/2 interest in the property, and then it would go to your heirs, not necessarily the other person. Now if the person's your heir, then they would get it, but it still goes through probate. There's all different ways to own property. When I say this, we talk about real property. Easements. You know, these are very interesting. Right to cross over land. You know, you'll see easements with driveways. You know, if you share a common driveway, you have an easement over someone else's property. There's utility easements. You know, all those power lines going across your property. It's an easement that the power line company has. All right. Bailment. Holding property from somebody else. Okay. Goods placed in another's possession to be returned in the future. You know, you go to a parking deck. You park your car there. The owner of that parking deck is holding your property as bail. Okay. Okay, we're not talking about bail to get out of jail. Okay. There would also be security interests. You know, again, for those of you that have bought property before, there's mortgages out there. Okay. No, they give you a deed to secure debt. Right. So So you have a deed, you give them an interest in the property until such time as you pay off the debt. Deeds of trust, very similar. Land sale contracts, you go see a real estate agent. They'll do up a contract for you. Alright? Recording statutes, race statutes, first person to get to the courthouse wins. Notice statute, first person to file without notice wins. Race notice, first person to get to the courthouse without notice of the other filing wins. Now keep in mind, once you file something in the county courthouse where the property is located, everyone's on constructive notice. So if you buy a piece of property, or if you get a deed to a piece of property, file it. File it immediately. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go file it. But again, it's also going to depend on the statute in the state in which you live. Exercising property interests. Foreclosures, deficiencies, right of redemptions. All of these things are things that can be exercised when you own pieces of property. Now, secure transactions. Now, this is going to relate to personal property, and every time I see secure transactions, I do this. Secure transactions, it was one of the classes in law school that everyone dreads, and then even worse on the bar exam, everyone dreads, because it's unique. It's a unique area of law, and it applies to personal property. Security interest is given in personal property, is given as collateral. Okay, it attaches to it, and then you have perfection. And obviously, what you want whenever you are dealing with secure transactions is you want it to perfect, and you can do this through financing statements or purchase money security interests. Okay, and then you have priority. Who filed first. All right, and what you want, and this also goes along with real estate, but you want priority in the good or the item versus the other person, because in the event this person were to foreclose on the thing, you would win. All right, you would still keep your security interest, and that's very important whenever you talk about people that have multiple liens on an item. Property use of resources and equitable rights of others. Private property has limits. I don't think there's any question there. Private property right is always subject to the rights of others. Private property gives ways to common good of society. Eminent domain, taxation. Okay? These are things that affect us every day. We are always going to be subject to taxes. What's the old saying? There's only two constants in this world, death and taxes. It's true. Nuisance. Public and private. These are always really interesting cases. You deal with pig farms and people getting on your way, on your road. But you have public nuisance and private nuisance. A public nuisance is a use of land that causes inconvenience or damage to the public. Whereas private, just like it sounds, is unreasonable use of one's property as to cause interference with employment or use of another's land. So public is everybody, private is to an individual or a small group. Zoning. Zoning laws affect us all the time. And this is an exercise of the police powers. Regulation of land through zoning ordinance. You can limit things to use and aesthetics. But you can always ask for a variance, meaning that you go before the board and you say, hey, listen, I'd like this property is used residential, however, I'd like to turn it to commercial. Eminent domain. Certainly this gives the government the right to take your property. But the thing that we're going to fight about is what is the value of that property. Now certainly I'm sure some of you have seen people widening roads and whatnot. Well, when people widen roads, the government takes property, and they try to give people fair market value for their property when they widen roads. But the question is, what's that property worth? And that's whenever we get into lawsuits. Taxation. Taxing and spending clause. Folks, the government can tax us. I'm sorry. Okay? Do this to fund for roads. Education. A lot of property taxes are taken up for educational purposes. Law enforcement. Folks, I may be a defense attorney, but I sure do appreciate police officers. Pay for courts. National defense. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution makes federal taxation okay, and income tax comes in under the 16th Amendment. So, folks, taxation is there. It's going to be there until we're dead and buried. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. But these are all things that affect property. Okay?